We are reforesting this old vegetable field and transitioning it into an edible paradise. We're trying to make sure the DJ is already playing music before the people arrive at the party. So that's why we're planting a lot of these support species, these poplars, these willows, river locusts, kind of get things moving. So think food forest, think fruit trees, nut trees. This has been a field that has been tilled. This was actually underwater. Over 100 years ago, this was drained so they could till these fields and grow vegetables right here in these fields. Now we are beginning this multiple year process. So in this short video, I want to just give you a little bit of a peek into that journey, because in a few years, this is going to look completely different. And one of the first things we did was we took a look around and saw who was already growing here in some of the hedges. And one of the plants we really saw trying to make its way back into the field were grapes. So that was an indicator for us that grapes actually might be able to thrive here. Now we also have all of these water channels. So we want to stabilize this bank and not have it continue to erode. So what we did is we live staked a bunch of willow, poplar, and some other friends right here into this bank. So this cutting was taken during dormancy in the winter, and you just stick it into the ground, and look, you can already see this new growth. So in March and April, we went through these fields and staked a couple thousand willow and poplar trees. And one really exciting thing is we saw a willow tree right over there. And what we did is we just pollarded it. We left some of the growth, but then we were able to take all of those branches and just stake them all around the edges of these fields, and in some cases in the rows here. So right now, these fields have a few different experiments happening. One example here are some apple trees. And this is a bit of a deer protection system where we've taken other branches from the hedges and just kind of staked them in, not to grow them, but just to make it a little more difficult for the deer to browse. And a lot of other agroforestry plantings, you'll see plastic tubes, you'll see fencing, electric fencing, perimeter fencing, but we're trying to see if we can kind of confuse the deer. Deer often like to have a clear space for their face to go in. So if there's some of this other kind of brush and branches, these have been browsed, but they are hanging in there. Now, as these tree rows mature, in the meantime, we can still grow vegetables either in the row or in between the rows, almost like an alley cropping system. So you see some squash plants that are growing in the row, and then you also see corn growing here. So that's one pattern here where you have tree rows and vegetables in the alley. Another pattern is tree rows and vegetables in here. And I'll show you our grass-fed vegetable system in a second. But what we did here before we planted this corn is we mowed all this material, and then we created these nests. And you can see in the nests, we planted a lot of different seeds. Some of those are other fruit trees. We planted a lot of hickory trees. And basically, what we're trying to do right now is accumulate organic material, accumulate biomass, so we can mulch with that, chop it, drop it, and feed the plants. And it wouldn't be feasible to bring in so much compost and mulch that other organic farms do to shade and insulate the soil and feed the soil. So our thought is, what if we just grew the mulch, the organic matter, grew the fertility, the compost right where we needed it? So a key part of what we're doing is working with different trees that excel in different roles. Every plant has their own set of virtues, and by understanding the plants and treating the whole system here as one macroorganism, one ecosystem, that's allowing us to build the soil back up. And A few trees that we're working a lot with are poplars and river locusts, or Amorpha fruticosa. And the poplars are really good for building biomass, creating fungal relationships in the soil. And the river locusts are nitrogen fixers, super hardy, really fast growing plants. Now, here's a good example of basically, I guess you could call this year 2, where first thing we did was establish a perennial grass mix of cool season, warm season, some annuals in the first year just to start the accumulation process. And then what we did is we created one long row here. And now that these perennial grasses are established, you basically see no other interfering plants, or what some people call weeds. So we are already limiting the amount of interference that other plants can cause. And then a few days ago, this was like up to your knees or higher. We went, mowed this, and then we're mulching with it. So a lot of people talk about grass-fed meat. This is grass-fed vegetables. So right here we have squash plants. We also have planted some other plants that will take up the upper canopy. And for us, that could be corn, that could be sunflowers. And these sunflowers will grow quickly and maximize photosynthesis up above while the squash spreads out below. So what we're going to do next year is we're going to come in the spring and plant a bunch of trees along this. And now that we've started to accumulate and bring more fertility to this row, we won't need as much for this row next year. So we're going to open up another row and plant more trees in this row, and then we'll be able to grow vegetables in there and then mulch with this grass on this side and mulch with this grass on this side. So we started with one row because we really want to kind of jumpstart the system here. And you can also see that we have staked poplar cuttings as well. These poplar cuttings were kind of forgotten about, and we planted them too late. Some of them took, but some of them didn't. But really what we're trying to do is work with these early successional species that help build the soil quickly and kind of can compound the material production. So that's a little bit about what we're doing, but the idea here is if you just plant a fruit tree, put a little compost, put a little mulch, and just hope that it has a strong, healthy life with no pests or disease pressure, we're trying to zoom out and care for the whole landscape. And from that care, we'll be gifted with the fruits from it. So it's almost like, traditional organic farming or permaculture or agroforestry systems that don't have as much density and support. It's almost like eating your dessert before you eat dinner. We're trying to make sure the DJ is already playing music before the people arrive at the party. So that's why we're planting a lot of these support species, these poplars, these willows, river locusts, to kind of get things moving. And we can always plant our fruit and nut trees by seed or by grafted plants later, or seedlings. So there are a lot of possibilities on how you want to approach it, but one thing's for sure is that you want to make sure that you have a lot of support species so you can be building that soil, bringing that fertility in right on site. And really the goal here is to create zero input systems. So that's a little bit of a peek into what we're doing down there. I'm excited to keep showing you this reforestation journey, and eventually it'll start to look like some of our more mature systems where we have the mulberries, or we have a little more mature poplars. Like, look at all that material that can be chopped. What we're gonna do is we're gonna grow grapes at the base of that and actually use the poplars as a living trellis. Over time, in 50 years, 100 years, we'll be walking around in a forest of chestnuts and oaks and hickories. So hope you saw a little bit into what we're doing, and we'll keep sharing more as it unfolds. Much love.